Hello everyone, I hope y'all are doing well and having a great Thursday so far. In today's forecast update, we're going to be talking about our multi-day severe weather threat that'll start tomorrow on Friday and will last through this coming Sunday. So I will have timestamps into the video, so feel free to skip around to any part y'all want to see. And I won't have each region separated into timestamps, but I will have each severe weather day separated. So I'll have Fridays separated from Saturdays and so on. And so we'll go ahead and get started with the update for today. So first, starting out with tomorrow's severe weather threat on Friday, March the 14th. And so as you can see already, we have a level 4 out of 5 moderate risk of severe weather issued into portions of southeastern Iowa, into Illinois, eastern Missouri, kind of far, really extreme western Kentucky, northwestern Tennessee, and northeastern Arkansas for tomorrow for that threat. And so around that is a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk in the orange color that starts into Iowa and extends all the way down into Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and even a small area of extreme northeastern Louisiana for tomorrow. And then around that in the yellow color, we have a level 2 out of 5 severe weather risk from Minnesota into Wisconsin all the way down to the south, and that extends all the way into southern Mississippi and Alabama for tomorrow. And then around that once again is a level 1 out of 5 severe weather risk in the green color, the dark green color that is, and that extends all the way from Minnesota, Wisconsin, all the way down to the south into Alabama, Mississippi, the panhandle of Florida, and into Texas and Louisiana for tomorrow's risk. And so if we look at our tornado risk for tomorrow, we do have a 10% tornado risk and a hatched area in that 10% tornado risk in the hatched area, with the black dashed lines being a 10% or greater chance of a significant tornado being possible into these areas here in that color. And so that extends all the way from, starts in Iowa and extends all the way into Illinois, Missouri, Kentucky, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama, as well as a small area of northeastern Louisiana there. And then around that in that brown color is a 5% tornado risk extending from Iowa all the way down to the south into Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, there. And then around that in that green color is a 2% tornado risk for tomorrow, and that is all the way from Minnesota, Wisconsin, down to the south, all the way into Louisiana, Alabama, and the panhandle of Florida for tomorrow. Then looking at our wind risk with this, we do have a 45% wind risk already for tomorrow, and that is in that pink color there, with a hatch risk in that as well. And that hatch risk is a 10% or greater probability of winds damaging winds occurring into this area here in that pink color. And around that in that red color is a 30% risk, same thing with that, another 10% hatch risk in there from Iowa into Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, and into Mississippi. And then once again around that in the yellow color is a 15% wind risk starting all the way into Minnesota and Wisconsin, all the way down to the south into the deep south into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama as well, and those states in between in the yellow color. And we also have a hatch risk into some portions of that, into that 15% risk for tomorrow. And then once again around that in the brown color is a 5% wind risk starting into Minnesota and Wisconsin, all the way down to the south again, in between those states, all the way down into Louisiana, Mississippi, Panhandle, Florida, and Alabama for tomorrow. And then finally looking at our hail risk, we have a 30% hail risk for tomorrow, and we have a 10% hatch risk in there as well, and that is a 10% or greater probability of of large hail for tomorrow into those areas, but still a 30% risk there in the red color, yellow color, 15% hail risk and there, and then around that is a 5% hail risk in the brown color, surrounding those 15 and 30% risk for tomorrow on Friday. So now looking at the HRRR weather model, this is the latest 18Z run, and this will be for tomorrow on Friday. So if we go to Friday morning, you already have some kind of weak showers moving into portions of Wisconsin, but that is not going to be their main threat. What is going to be our main threat is what pops up right around here. And so if we continue on a little bit further into tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, and we already have storms beginning to form into Nebraska and Iowa tomorrow on Friday, you get that going even more, and you're going to have these storms start to strengthen even more, and that'll be around the kind of late afternoon, or really kind of into the evening hours tomorrow and Friday. And so that low pressure is going to be a little bit to the west of that, so it is going to be there's going to be plenty of wind shear in the atmosphere for these storms, and especially with that wind risk, there will be plenty of wind shear. And so if we go and kind of get further into tomorrow evening, you have this long line of storms. Supercells will probably be embedded within this line, and some may be discrete to begin with, like right here, but as we get further into the night, this will kind of congeal into one line of storms all the way into South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri as well for tomorrow. And then as you get further into the night, those storms really start to push east, and you'll definitely have to watch these storms as well into Illinois, even Missouri tomorrow night. And as that low pressure kind of lifts up to the north, you still have many clusters here, and still all severe weather hazards will be possible with this line moving east, and you'll have just clusters of storms there moving into Illinois, Indiana by pretty late tomorrow night into early on Saturday. And those storms will start to weaken just a little bit as you go throughout the in the overnight hours into Saturday, but still most of those will still pack a punch, and still at least be strong, possibly severe, for quite a bit of the night. But again, we will have an all hazards threat with this risk tomorrow. And if we look at our significant tornado parameter for tomorrow, and so if we go to we'll look down into the kind of south central US in just a second, but we're going to remain in the Midwest for right now. But still, it looks like the greatest risk for with our significant tornado parameter would be into Missouri and Illinois, especially with that line where there is sufficient moisture. There will still be sufficient moisture up here into Minnesota, Iowa, and surrounding states, but the moisture will be a little bit better for those storms to strengthen down into Missouri and Illinois. And as you go throughout the night into the overnight hours, you still have a significant tornado parameter there, and that still is evident with all those storms even into Saturday morning. So that'll still be something to watch there for that threat. But I think this will honestly be mostly a nocturnal tornado risk for these areas. And I hate it. I hate it's going to happen during the night, but that's just how it's going to play out, unfortunately. But that is just still something to consider. And really, over these areas, you will have to really stay weather aware tomorrow and continue to watch and stay up to date with your local forecast offices to get the latest information regarding those storms. And so if we kind of move into the south central US for tomorrow, I'm going to go back to our reflectivity on the HRRR weather model here. So still, if we go a little bit forward here, going to Friday evening, you still have some moisture over these areas into Arkansas, Louisiana by tomorrow evening on Friday. But as you get further into the night, you still have those storms beginning to develop there into Missouri, Arkansas, southern Illinois, even into Kentucky as well. And those will get going in. These could be semi-discrete or even pretty isolated at times tomorrow evening into tomorrow night. And then as you go throughout the night, that shifts to the east, and we'll look kind of in our southeastern sector here just for a moment. And so those will shift to the east, and then you'll have your Saturday severe weather threat start to kick off by the morning hours on Saturday. But we'll talk about that in just a second. But again, we'll look at our significant tornado parameter, and as you can see, that spikes quite a bit into these areas. And we'll go back, and I'll keep switching around here. But we'll go to the Ohio Valley here to see a little bit better. I'm not sure why I didn't do that to begin with, but still here, if you look, that significant tornado parameter spikes quite a bit late tomorrow night on Friday across Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, even Louisiana, Illinois, even into Kentucky, and that'll be our greatest risk for tornadoes, especially late tomorrow night across these areas. And then that area shifts east on Saturday, and that will bring us to our Saturday severe weather risk. But real quick, we'll look at dew points across these areas. And so again, as I said just a little bit ago, moisture will not be as rich, you will not have rich moisture, into these areas up into the Midwest. You will only have dew points into the really upper 40s and lower 50s for the most part, but still mid 50s dew points will get the job done for those storms tomorrow evening. And then if you look further to the south, you have dew points well into the 60s in some of these areas, and that again is plenty moist enough for those storms, and that'll be the time frame you'll have to watch. And just real quick, I know I said dew points will be the last thing we look at, but our low-level jet is going to be the main story for tomorrow, because even if you go to tomorrow night, you have a potent lower 60 to mid 60 knot low level jet across these areas, even into Illinois as well, almost really over 70 knot low level jet showing up there. And so the areas that you'll have the overlap with instability and the lower level jet, a strong lower level jet, that is, that'll be the areas that'll have the greatest chance of seeing tornadic activity, along with other hazards as well. But still, that low-level jet is just absolutely screaming across these areas late tomorrow night into early on Saturday, and that'll be really about it for our Friday severe weather discussion. Now looking at our severe weather risk for Saturday, March 15th. And so, as you can see, we already have a level 4 to 5 moderate risk issued into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, as well as a small area into the far western panhandle of Florida there for Saturday. And so we have our moderate risk there, level 4 to 5. Then around that is our enhanced risk in the orange color, level 3 out of 5 risk, all the way from southern Kentucky into Tennessee, southwestern North Carolina, extreme western South Carolina into Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana for our enhanced risk. Then looking at our level 2 out of 5, slight risk for severe weather on Saturday, we have the risk starting into Ohio, Pennsylvania as well, all the way down to the south into those states in between, into Georgia, Florida, Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, far eastern Texas for Saturday. And then finally, we have a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk in the dark green color, once again all the way from New York State, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, all the way to the south in the states in between into eastern Texas, Louisiana, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida for our risk of severe weather on Saturday. So first starting out in the southeast, and then we'll move further to the north into the Ohio Valley for our severe weather risk on Saturday. And first, we'll start out with we'll go through Friday, and then as you get into late Friday night and into early on Saturday, you're going to see those storms kind of form here, and you'll even have some kind of discrete storms into Mississippi, Alabama late, really not late Friday night, but into early on Saturday. And you'll have your first initial round of convection, these clusters here, and this will not be the main threat, but there'll still be a threat of severe weather risk, severe weather with this risk, excuse me. And you continue that on into Saturday morning, and this is where our main event starts to unfold. And as you can see, we have clusters of severe storms, strong storms, probably severe, all the way into Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, and you get that moving further, and then you just get a nasty look of storms here by about midday on Saturday into Mississippi. That is just a bad look, honestly, is all I can say about that for the 18ZH for Saturday. And as you can see there, all of our storms, this will be, they'll start out kind of semi-discrete, as I said, but they'll somewhat be in a line. But most of these will, within this line, there will be supercells possible for sure with this threat. And again, that's as far as the HRRR goes. So we'll switch to the NAM just briefly. I won't really get into specifics as much because it is kind of getting a little further out in the time frame, and we can't say this is going to be the exact storm mode. So if we go back a little bit here, yeah, the 18Z NAM here does not have that kind of cluster there, but it still shows those storms all the way into Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, even Alabama. But it has that further into the evening across those areas, but it gets those kind of going again late Saturday night all the way into Sunday. So that'll just be something to watch. That is kind of a difference there between the two models. So the HRRR is definitely a bad look for sure across those areas. This is still a pretty significant look here on the 3 km NAM. And if we look at our low level jet across these areas, still, or more, not still, but once again, we're just going to have a extremely strong low level jet, a upper 60 to lower 70 knot low level jet situated across Mississippi and even into Alabama, Tennessee for Saturday evening. And the NAM wants to go all out with that and bring a 80 knot low level jet into Tennessee. That is just insane, really. But the wind shear is going to be there in pretty much all levels of the atmosphere, especially the lower levels and upper levels, to support severe weather for these areas. So that is definitely not a question. And looking at our dew points here, moisture is definitely not a question either, because you will have rich moisture into these areas. We'll go back a little bit. Saturday afternoon, you have dew points all the way into the 60s and even lower 70s into Louisiana, Mississippi, and that'll just do nothing but fuel these storms and allow them to maximize their severity on Saturday. But that'll be about it for the southeastern sector. We'll kind of move up into the Ohio Valley here, and we'll look at our reflectivity once again. And we look here, and we'll stay on the NAM, and we'll go back to the HRRR in just a second. And we go forward with time, and as you can see, by midday Saturday, those storms are starting to rush up to the north into Tennessee, Arkansas there, and then even as you get into Saturday evening, you have a pretty large cluster here and a line almost into Kentucky, storms all the way into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and once again, these will have the chance to produce all severe weather hazards, and just a nasty look with that kind of line moving into Alabama and Tennessee into Saturday night all the way into Sunday. But we're not going to get too focused and honed in on the 3 kilometer NAM because it's just a little far out, and we can't really say this storm mode is going to happen for sure, but still, it's just something to look at. And now we'll look at the HRRR, and we'll look back at Saturday's threat for the Ohio Valley and continue that on. And as we get into midday on Saturday, you have a much more, I would say, kind of a widespread storm mode here into the Ohio Valley and upper south, but that is as far as the HRRR goes. But still, you'll have storms into really Saturday morning across much of these areas, and really can't go, really can't look much farther past that, just because once again that is as far as the HRRR goes, and I don't really want to get into specifics because it's still a little far out for us to take a deep dive into. But if we look at our lower level jet and dew points in just a second, still, once again, you'll have a strong low level jet early on in the day on Saturday across portions of Kentucky and Tennessee all the way into the Ohio Valley. And then if we look at dew points here for Saturday, once again, you'll still have better moisture probably than the previous days just further east, but dew points into the 60s and lower 50s, upper 50s into some of these areas. And again, upper 50s dew points will do the job for severe weather, and dew points into the 60s will enhance that a little bit further, and help to destabilize the atmosphere a little bit more with that moisture rising up to the north. But that'll really about be it for the Saturday severe weather discussion, and we'll continue to monitor the days ahead, especially Saturday as we get closer to it. And finally, looking at Sunday's severe weather threat, and this is on March the 16th. And so we already have a level 2 out of 5, or we've had a level 2 out of 5 slight risk for a couple of days now across the eastern seaboard, but they have maintained this risk across these areas. But that threat exists from Pennsylvania all the way to the south into the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida, and those states in between. And so this risk won't be, I don't think it'll be as great as the days prior, but still there will be a severe risk for Sunday. So just briefly looking at Sunday's severe weather risk, and so by Sunday morning you have your moisture rising up into these areas and into the southeast, dew points into the upper and mid 60s across Alabama, Georgia, Florida, even into the lower 60s into South Carolina, North Carolina by Sunday morning. And then those dew points continue to increase just a little bit, and you have dew points into the 60s into portions of the Carolinas and mid-Atlantic into the upper 50s for Sunday, and that'll be again plenty for those storms to get going. And this will mostly be a linear threat of severe weather for, not linear threat, but a linear storm mode, and in that linear storm mode there will be a threat once again for severe weather. And if we look at our low-level jet for Sunday, you have that low-level jet increasing across these areas as that low pressure lifts to the north, and even into the mid-Atlantic. You have a upper 50 knot low-level jet into some of these areas, and even getting close to the 60 knot range in some of these areas, and into the southeast, same story there. Some areas seeing a 60 knot low-level jet, but areas around that seeing a 50 knot low-level jet to 40 knot low-level jet. So that'll definitely be able to get the job done for another severe weather risk day. And most of that The strongest part of that low level jet will probably persist into the late evening hours and overnight hours, Sunday night into Monday. So that'll be the good thing, but still you'll have a low level jet there in place with some moisture on Sunday across portions of the eastern seaboard, and you'll again have another severe weather day, and we'll have to continue to monitor this as we get closer, but we can't really take a deep dive into this right now, but we'll once again continue to watch this over the next couple of days. So that'll be it for today's update. I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I do apologize for kind of the this video was a little bit of a mess just because I was trying to get so much information packed into a shorter time period, so this video wasn't 30 or 35 or 40 minutes long. But again, I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I may have another video out tomorrow night, but I can't guarantee it. I will try my best to have one up by Saturday, and if I don't, I do apologize. But I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's Thursday, and stay safe tomorrow and this weekend with the severe weather threat.